As we all saw last week, Sydney Sweeney's latest American Eagle ad says she has great genes with a J, appearing to play on jeans with a G. And then came the Nuremberg trials.
Surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda.
And since you were all wondering with bated breath what activist Zeli Imani thought about it, he called the ad a, quote, love letter to white nationalism and eugenic fantasies, and Sydney Sweeney knew it. American Eagle responded by calling the controversy, quote, a misunderstanding, saying the ad was meant to celebrate individuality, not ancestry. Conservatives rallied to Sweeney's defense. President Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Fox News personalities defended the actress, framing the backlash as further evidence of performative outrage.
Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican. I think her ad is fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
But it wasn't just conservatives.
Funny that all the online social justice girls are like, it's racist. There's no such thing as good genes. Right, and then you go on Tinder and swipe left on every bald guy.
But was the backlash to the backlash proportionate? Media watchdogs like so-called media watchdogs like Media Matters noted that Fox News devoted over 85 minutes to the ad in one day while giving just 3 minutes to breaking Epstein news. Joining us now is the executive editor of Newsbusters and the Media Research Center's director of media analysis, Tim Graham.
Hello.
Hi, Tim. So was the backlash to Sweeney's ad more about her growing cultural prominence than the ad itself? And what does that say about the media resentment towards certain kinds of rising stars?
Well, I think there are a lot of Americans who have no idea who Sydney Sweeney is yet. She's kind of a rising star. Well, this is going to make her more rising. Obviously, when they made this ad, they knew that putting in the G-E-N-E word was going to trigger some folks. And that clearly worked like a charm. What was interesting about this, Christian, was the way that ABC, CBS, and NBC and their nightly news didn't really go for this. ABC jumped on it on Good Morning America first look. NPR fussed about it. But it wasn't the media phenomenon that you would have expected. I think they all felt like, oh, we're not going to go along and give these MAGA types what they want.
So do you see a feedback loop forming where advertisers are baiting outrage for attention and media outlets willingly oblige under the guise of critique?
Well, I mean, I guess this is probably, I think the way that they figure that Trump works is he triggers you into covering him. And then your overreaction to Trump, you end up looking like, a problem. I mean, this was so unwoke. It's such a backlash in a sense to the wave of advertising we got after the George Floyd riots of 2020, where everybody was crying so hard to virtue signal, and this is the fascinating thing. And I think a lot of people come away from this and say, it's okay if you say black is beautiful. That's affirming. The minute you say white is beautiful in any way, well, it's the Nazis and the fascists.
Yeah, I think black is beautiful originated in the 1970s, so that's 50 years old, half a century. Could the media's reaction be interpreted as projection, assigning ideological motives to an ad that simply reflects traditional aesthetics?
Well, certainly we have a media today that is so buried in wokeness and the so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion. These newsrooms don't represent any of those words. But I mean, they have a very racial mentality. So again, I think American Eagle was tweaking by using this the way that they did. But the problem was it's so subtle. It's not quite subliminal, but it's so subtle that it makes you look kind of silly to go so overwrought about it that somehow you think it's a Nazi promotion. That's obviously, they're just selling blue jeans.
Yeah. So in this fragmented media landscape, is outrage over beauty standards really about control over who gets to define what's aspirational in American culture, Tim?
Well, when it comes to advertising, obviously, especially when you're marketing clothes or anything to women, they all want to look beautiful. And of course, I think advertisers have been really worked really hard to say, there are lots of types of beauty. You can be thick or thin, you can be white or black, you can be all these things. And I think to some level, they just thought this was so like too traditional. This is too
Mm,
much like somehow the 1950s.
mm.
And that I think spawned the overreaction. I think we should be able to say we have different standards of beauty. Sometimes it's whether you have beauty within, but you're not going to get that in advertising.
So, devil's advocate, or David Brock's advocate, same thing. Most, if not all, of the woke outrage I've seen over this has been in the context of conservative media covering the outrage, which tracks with the Media Matters analysis of the coverage that I mentioned earlier. So now that more liberal figures like Bill Maher are piling on as well, is conservative media responsible for amplifying woke outrage well past its prime?
Sure. I mean, I think this was the kind of story that that conservative media really enjoys talking about. There's nothing more fun than purple-haired ladies on TikTok losing their minds. I mean, in a sense, it's the formula of red, white, and blue beauty, the American way, American Eagle jeans. Somebody hates the American Eagle. It's the whole thing is sort of bait for conservative media. But it goes the other way too, right? I mean, all the advertising they made to try to please the progressives, that was never, there was outrage over that. There wasn't going to be any of that on liberal media.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, this is fun to talk about. Here we are talking about it for that very reason. So great to have you, Tim. Please come back.
You bet.
Coming up, the Loud Majority founder himself, Kevin Smith, takes a spin on headline roulette.